All right, what's going on, y'all? Thank you so much for joining me tonight for your Wellness Wednesday check-in with me, your host, Fallon Lopez, RMBSN Certified Health and Wellness Coach and CEO of Are You Well, where I help empower nurses, career-driven women to take back their health and healing, find their voice again, and prevent burnout. And we do just that on our Wellness Wednesday check-ins. I come on every Wednesday to give you some insights, to help motivate you in your wellness journey, in your health journey, wherever you are in your journey, so that we can show up our most powerful and most impactful selves by taking care of ourselves first, by putting ourselves first. And tonight I have a special guest that we're going to be chatting with, and it's our second time chatting with Charlene Platon. She's gracing the stage with us again, and I'm so excited to have her on. The first time we chatted with Charlene last year, we talked more about her journey and passion with mental wellness and the wellness app that she co-developed with her colleagues. And if you haven't checked out the fifth window, make sure you go download, you go check it out. Having those resources in the palm of your hands for busy nurses. She took all the meditation apps, all the workout apps, all of those things, and she created this app for easy access. So you definitely want to check that out, y'all. So I'm super excited to have Charlene on. She is the director of ambulatory nursing at Stanford Health, where she collaborates with operational and clinical partners to advance, develop, refine, and innovate ambulatory nursing clinical delivery operations throughout the enterprise. Passionate about healthcare innovation, Charlene is a founding member of Technology, Research, and Innovation Steering Committee at SHC, representing innovation in ambulatory nursing. Charlene is also one of the 12 inaugural Johnson & Johnson Nurse Innovation Fellows. As a fellow, Charlene aims to bring nurse-led innovation to the forefront of healthcare. In addition, Charlene is CEO and co-founder of Fifth Window, a nurse-led and women-led digital wellness platform that aims to promote and prioritize the well-being of nurses, clinicians, and organizations. Charlene's overarching goal as a healthcare leader and nurse innovator is to transform healthcare delivery and operations at the intersection of compassion, innovation, technology, and ultimately improving the healthcare experience for patients and professionals. Wow. As you can see, this lady is doing so much for healthcare, going after her goals, making an impact and breaking ceilings, y'all. And she's continuing to grow. How does she do it all? How does she fit it all in? Well, let's learn from Charlene today. So if you've ever thought about how to climb the ladder in your nursing career or in your career in general as a woman, as a minority woman, this conversation is for you. And without burning out as well, going after your goals without burning out or quitting, because let's be honest, it happens. But if you're listening to this, if you're following me, you know our goal here is to show up powerfully in our areas of impact without jeopardizing our own health and healing. And Charlene is leading the forefront on this. Let's bring her in. Welcome. What's going on, Charlene? How are you?
Hi, Fallon. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me again. It's so great to be back.
I know. We talked probably last year. Can you believe it's already like 2022 in the middle?
Believe it. Every month that passes by, I just can't believe it.
It's going by fast, and I'm sure for you as well, you've hit some amazing milestones. Again, congratulations on your recent wedding, getting your family started. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we got married on February 22, 22. So.
Oh, nice. That is very... He can't forget now. He has y'all. I love it. I love it. See, y'all, she does it all. She's going after her goals, taking care of her family, all of this thing. So let's get into it, Charlene. So I want to know, how did your leadership journey start? Did you always have ideas about growing? And what inspired you to move forward into this leadership position that you're in now?
Yeah, I had always been interested in leadership, and I think I didn't really know it until later on in my journey. But before I was a nurse, while I was studying nursing in nursing school in undergrad, I would always be drawn to leadership opportunities. So whether it was through the volunteering platforms that I was part of or the clubs I was part of on campus, I was always in different leadership roles, just informally. And then when I became a nurse, I was part of the shared governance structure there as a new graduate nurse. And there were just so many opportunities that I found exciting and that I was a part of, and then just naturally wanted to be part of it. And so I kind of said yes to a lot of different opportunities, and then eventually found myself in my current role in formal leadership as a director for ambulatory nursing. But now I have been in formal leadership for the past almost 6 years, which is really awesome and crazy to think about now, just looking back at my journey of in nursing for about 10 years. So I'm really grateful to be on this path, and it wasn't always quite clear, but I think eventually looking back, all those different opportunities made sense, and I think culminated to where I am today.
I love that. She's so humble, y'all. Like, oh, it's only been 6 years, I love that. But definitely. So it sounds like it's always been in you. You kind of just leaned into it, embraced it, and didn't even just ignore the leadership opportunities that were around you. Like, you stepped into what you were doing in that moment. Use those things as like learning to push you forward. That's awesome. So, what was one obstacle in getting you to where you are now, and what tools or resources did you use to overcome those obstacles? I just want to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, actually, I would say one of the more interesting obstacles was that I was always told not to be in leadership in other ways. So while a lot of opportunities presented itself, and I took on a lot of those opportunities, actually I was told a lot by my mother. she's actually a nurse too, and but she hadn't been in leadership, so I had been always discouraged from being in leadership from that perspective. And I think just culturally it wasn't, and in my family it's not really, there wasn't really much that my family knew about it. So I think if it's a new opportunity, often there's this fear of taking on these new opportunities. So even though nursing runs in my family, there might not be as many people in nursing leadership. So yeah, I think hearing that message saying, you shouldn't be in leadership, you should be, doing this or doing that. This path makes more sense. I think just trying to overcome what people are telling you, and then just understanding what your own values are. And so I had to do a lot of soul searching to make sure that this was what I really saw for myself. And then that also showed up again when, I went to nurse practitioner school, and I was always set on becoming a nurse practitioner. But then when I finished school, I was presented with two opportunities. One would have been a nurse practitioner residency, which was like my dream nurse practitioner residency program. It had everything I wanted. And then the other choice was to be a manager at Stanford for advanced practice providers. And so that was a real soul searching moment. And I had to really dig deep and think about my values. And ultimately I chose to move forward with leadership, and I haven't looked back since. So I think just really understanding what you would like, even despite what others might say outside of it, is an obstacle that I had to really think about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can resonate with that. When you said about your mom, thanks for being so honest. Like a lot of, foreign background, nurses might be feeling the same way. All you might have experiences bedside nursing, and you may not be as open to other opportunities, or some may view it as kind of a hassle. Like, do you think that's why they strayed you away from going into leadership? What was their reasoning behind that, do you feel like?
I think that with my mom, she always has great intentions and wants me to be financially secure. So I think it was more from a place of not knowing how secure a job in leadership was compared to you as an ICU nurse and as a nurse at the bedside. So I think just drawing from what she knew about nursing, she was trying to persuade me to pursue a path that she was very comfortable with and very familiar with. And kind of anything outside of that was something she discouraged. So I think that kind of fell into that bucket.
Like, I'm not sure about this, but I know you're gonna always have a job
Right.
with the bedside nurses. So I mean,
Right.
they try, they give us what they have. And I think that's something that I've had to kind of cope with on my end as well, because there was some fear when I was unhappy with nursing and I was like, I want to do something else. Like the
Right.
kind of feedback that I got was like, well, that's life, mija. Like, it's tough. You just move on, you just deal. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. I don't like that,
Like
So,
there's
how did you? Mm,
options. There's got to be other options. Right.
yes, there are other options. So, I love having these conversations. Like, we're not alone in dealing with these things with our family, whatever obstacles that we have in growing in our career. Like, it's real. But I guess the great thing that no I know the great thing that you just said, like identifying your values. So what did that look like to you, like for you? How did you kind of differentiate from your family but do it in a way that's not like so like stuck up, like kind of like I don't know, like I don't associate with y'all, but do it like in a healthy way? How did you cope with that? Because I'm sure there was some pushback, right? Like,
Yeah, and just kind of adding to why it was an obstacle. I'm someone which maybe many nurses or several nurses can relate to, but I'm a people pleaser just by background. I just love to make people happy. I love to be in service of others, and so making my parents proud was a big thing for me, and I was all set. I had followed their path, like what they told me to do up until I was in college, and then when I finally just I got to a point where I was just asking myself, like, what do I want for my future? Where do I see my future? And then just kind of digging deep and thinking about what is it that I stand for? What is it that I want to pursue? And just from being in all those different leadership opportunities, even if they were informal ones, I saw the impact that it could make when you're a nurse and you're in a leadership position, at the decision-making table, even if it's a small table. I saw the impact that could make. And I was very, very interested and invested in that. And I think just thinking back on my experiences, I was really thinking about, well, what made me really happy? What was something I was really passionate about? But what were the things that I really was drawn to? And it was always kind of moving more towards that leadership path. So I think we don't always know what our values are at the moment, but then when you look back, you kind of see these patterns, and that's kind of what I use to guide me. And then also just considering like what are you really good at? And I felt like I had some skills in leadership. Well, hopefully other people agree, but I felt like I was pretty decent when leading some teams. So I decided to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they agreed. Like, look at where you're at now, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think with talking with my parents about it, I think it was more about saying like, I recognize that you mean the best and you have the best of intentions. And I definitely see where you're coming from. I just want to try this opportunity and see how it goes. And then, and just go from there. And, just letting them, I don't know. It was kind of hard. It was a little bit easier in college because I was not living at home. So then I was kind of able to make decisions that they didn't always know about. So it was a little easier to separate myself. But sometimes moving outside of the house is really good for that. And then I think just being able to say like, thank you for your concern. Thank you for your consideration. I'm going to make this decision and then see what happens after that.
Yes. Like, I love that you put it in a way where it's like, we're not burning bridges. It's not the end of the world. This is not World War III over here. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you as my parent, leading me. But now it's time for me to make my own decision. There's like that vocabulary, that wording. And I love that you use like, thank you, starting off with a thank you. Like, I appreciate your concern. But now it's my turn to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to just trust, like, hey, I'm going to land on the 2 feet that you learned, that you taught me how to use, right? So.
Right. Yeah. And I think just having them understand that, yeah, just like what you said, there comes a point when you want to make your own decisions. And I think it's also a matter of trust, like you said. So asking them to place their trust in you and your decisions, because you've been able to make it this far in the journey. So of course, I know there's a lot of complexities too with that conversation. So each person goes about it in different ways. And so that was just the path that worked for me at the moment.
No, I agree. We all have we have that moment where we have to like fend for ourselves, advocate for ourselves and what we want, and whether it's your parents, your spouse, your friends, you have to be, if you really want something like growing in your career, going after a business, getting into a new relationship, paying off your debt, whatever it is, like, and it's different from others around you, you have to be like, okay, this is me. Like boundaries, like this is what I want to do. These are my values. And I loved how earlier you said that you went back to your old, like seeing the patterns from the past. Like what were the patterns? And I also hear you saying like, what were my intentions? Like leadership is a good thing. It's not necessarily scary. I think a lot of nurses, and this is going to go into my next question, tend to be like really standoffish when it comes to like management positions, leadership positions. In your experience, I know you talked about your mom, but why do you think nurses sometimes we stay away? Like we rather just be at the bedside, not taking responsibility. Why do you think that is? And how can we like pivot out of that, do you think?
It is it's a really complex question and answer. And I do feel that there's a lot of cultural reasons for why nurses who are in acute care roles, taking care of patients directly, have different perspectives on leadership than maybe other folks might. And I think in general, though, there is a pattern or a perspective that, and as a result of our culture in healthcare, which has not always been, which has not always had the best intention in mind for our clinicians at the front line, I could see how there's kind of this divide between nurses and leadership. And actually, when I was working as a nurse providing direct patient care, they would call it suits versus scrubs. And I was always so, I didn't really understand it too much, why there was so much of that feeling or those different perspectives. But I do think that it could be from just historically how healthcare has been run as a business and how it continues to be run in some aspects. So there are some things that we can't change, and it's and I do think though, in particular, that's going to be a perspective held by staff where leaders, maybe haven't done the best job connecting with their teams, connecting with their staff, and being really open with them and transparent. So I think wherever you are in your nursing career, whichever organization you're a part of, your leadership really matters. And if they're not setting that example, and if they're not setting the stage of being trustworthy leaders or leaders worthy of trust, then the staff will not give trust or have trust in the leaders. And so I was really fortunate as a new graduate nurse to have managers and to have leaders that were really great role models, and they were really invested in my personal development. So I was very lucky, I would say, very fortunate, because I've had, especially with my first inpatient nursing position, my manager was extremely awesome and caring, and I know that that's not something everyone faces. So I think that just your own individual experience coupled with the culture of the organization that you're in can really set the tone for what you think of your leaders. And unfortunately, it seems that many healthcare systems might not have the leaders that maybe a lot of staff want to see. But hopefully answers some of that question. But I really feel like I'm the byproduct of the opposite, where the leaders are really invested, and then as that happens, then you want to be in leadership.
Yeah, that's amazing that you were able to have those good examples. Like you said, there are a majority of nurses, unfortunately, because of the system, whatever reason, whatever setbacks, don't have as great role models. And I think a lot of it sometimes that I've seen is because some of the leaders are kind of like, because of shortages, because we talk about nursing shortages, but I'm sure there is leadership shortages as well. Like, and so some of us get voluntold to become leaders without the proper training, without the proper orientation. And, we just get into these roles. And I don't know, have you ever experienced that or seen that? What advice would you give to somebody that maybe like got voluntold and now they're trying to come to the water and, create more of a caring environment, or an environment that your role models gave to you for their staff? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, and I think just to respond to your first comment about a potential for a lot of leadership turnover, the answer is yes. There is a lot of leadership turnover too, and I think a lot of people don't realize that in some organizations and in some teams. When I was a nurse at the bedside, there was quite a bit of turnover in my management too. When I moved and when I transferred from different nursing teams. I think in one of the teams I was in, I had like 4 managers in a very short time span. And so just going into your second question too, in terms of what can we do when we might find ourselves in a leadership role that maybe we didn't set out to be in, but we were kind of voluntold to be in, and now we're kind of in this position. So that kind of happened to me through my in my time as a new graduate nurse. I was only 4 months in as a new graduate nurse, just fresh off of my nursing residency program, and I was already told to become a charge nurse. So, 4 months is not a very long time to become a charge nurse. It's very quick, and I was extremely nervous about it. And so I told some other team members in our organization about it because I felt it was unsafe. I mean, I was able to do the work. I think, it was pretty exciting to me because I was able to learn new things, but then I still felt that I wasn't at that level of expertise to be a charge nurse at that time. So I did let other leaders in the organization know about it. And they advised me to set boundaries and, to say no if that opportunity happened again. So then one night they asked me to become a charge nurse again. And then I said, I'm sorry, but I feel that this is a little bit too unsafe for me. So I don't feel that I could be a charge nurse tonight. And they didn't take that well, but I wasn't a charge nurse. So, and then I think, later I was able to help with that role again when later on, but I think that's where the boundaries are really important. But sometimes you can't help it. If you do have to fill a leadership role, sometimes there is no opportunity to say no sometimes, or the pressure is really hard to say no to something like that. So in instances like that, I would say that it's best to really lean on others for support and to get as much support as you can, access to resources, ask for those resources, ask for that help, because people will usually grant that to you. And so I would advise to utilize as many resources as you can. And that was something I was exposed to also more recently, with different crises we have at the hospital. I've been asked to support our hospital command center, which is something that's, very new to me too. And I can't say no to that because that's, the hospital is like under crisis. So then I would say yes to those opportunities. And then I would just ask for as much support as I can. And then I was able to feel prepared enough to help support those opportunities. So I think just, being flexible and being adaptable when we're in that tough position, but then if you do have the opportunity, set boundaries where you feel comfortable.
I
Sorry.
love that. No. It hit every spot that it needed to, because I've been put into a situation where I had to grow fast, and I was a little bit concerned, like, I don't know if this is the right time at my job. And I wasn't sure, like, am I supposed to just drown and learn? Is that normal? Like, am I just supposed to just learn to keep going through, some drowning? It's okay. You got it. You just got to keep. But hearing you say, okay, set the boundaries when you can, but there are some instances where, like, we need you to fill in. We need you to step up. Like, you're ready for this. Your leadership comes to you. It's like, you're ready for this. You can do this. So hearing you say asking for support, that's still advocating for you, making sure that you're capable to ask for support as well. Like, it's okay to ask for help. I think that's something that we struggle with a lot too, asking for help, whether you're a nurse, growing in your career, wherever you are, like, being okay, knowing who to ask, knowing that you can ask, that you should ask for resources. We got YouTube, we got Google now. Like, let's make it happen, y'all. Like, if we need to, we have the resources to figure it out. And in a safe way, of course. We want to definitely do it safe. But I'm learning that as well. Like, when you're being pushed out of your comfort zone, it's okay to ask for help. And to find that support. I think that's another vulnerability as well as a leader.
Right, absolutely. And not being afraid to ask questions. I was afraid to ask questions for a long time. And then later I'm just like, why was I so afraid? It's better to ask questions. It's better to be safe than sorry. And so I know all those things can be really scary, though, asking questions, asking for help based on the culture of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really important to put yourself first, too. And those are ways to advocate for yourself.
Yes, exactly. Despite what the culture may be, what you may feel like, I think that's huge. Because when you feel unsupported, it can be hard to ask for help. When you feel like nobody's going to listen, it's really hard to ask for help. But knowing that you can still ask for help, there's still others. What can you do? How can you figure it out? I think that's really important too. Like, knowing that maybe I need to go above and beyond the people that are right here. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it is really, I think, in terms of our culture, there is a major revamp that needs to be, or that I think is in progress right now with the pandemic, for being able to be more, be okay, or be more vulnerable and asking for help, and really changing that mindset of one that where you have to be 100% all the time and be a perfectionist and just know everything all the time, to being in an organization that is okay with not knowing everything, and is okay with, people asking questions and asking for help. So I think that shift is being made, especially with the pandemic, and just recognizing that how important that is for our team members. And that goes for leaders too. Because as we mentioned before, there's a constant amount of new leaders who are taking up positions. So I think that that's very important. And if a organization has not begun to prioritize that yet, then it's really not to their benefit, since we really need to prioritize the safety of our staff and ourselves. And this is just one of the ways to do that.
Yeah, no, I hear you saying modeling, like making sure we're modeling. Like, if we don't feel like we're supported or we're in that safe culture to ask for help, like being the model, being the role model. And if it's still like not being taken care of, or not your needs not being addressed, whatever issues you may have, because I feel like I'm dealing with that sometimes at work right now, like a lot, like people not feeling supported, not being able to ask for help or go to people, and whatever culture, like. And then something else to consider is, if that organization isn't, making it a priority, okay, well, I got choices. I got other places I can be too. Like, I got to prioritize me. I think that's very important as well.
Right.
But yeah.
And it's just so interesting because a lot of challenges in the hospital come from communication challenges.
Mm,
And part of the communication challenges is not being able to ask for help. And I mean, is not being able to talk to one another or not being
talk
able
to
to
one another.
be with one another. Exactly. So I've just seen so many instances where patient outcomes were impacted because of the lack of communication between staff members. So if hospitals really truly are invested in creating a culture of safety and prioritizing the safety of patients and staff, then they should be looking at creating an environment and a culture where people aren't afraid to say things and aren't afraid to talk and point things out. And I think everyone needs to participate in that.
Yes, it takes a team. We have to start for sure all together. And it starts with you first, wherever you're at. You definitely hold. We're all leaders in some aspect, whether you're, leading at work, at home, like speaking up is so important. And modeling it. That's one way, wherever you're at, for sure. So I wanted to ask, so how do you create that space for your team? I want to know more about your leadership style and how you found out what type of leader you are.
Yeah, I think over the years of being in leadership, I would say my style is definitely collaborative, and I've also really invested in compassionate leadership, and so I really feel that when you're working with other members of your team, it's so important to have everyone else's input. I mean, a lot of people don't like hearing no, and I think that hearing no is one of the best things that you can hear for a team. It's one of the best ways to grow, because if you want to do something and someone says no, actually XYZ, you could learn so much from other people. So I think being a collaborative leader and being open to hearing what other people think is very much part of that. And then a compassionate leader, so someone who is able to, as a leader, being able to see other people's perspectives, but being motivated to help guide them where they might be struggling. I think in general, there's just such a lack of compassion nowadays that finding a compassionate leader is very, very rare. So I always try to keep in mind that everyone is struggling, and it never hurts to be compassionate. And I've been, when I was managing advanced practice providers, I was responsible for about 20 advanced practice providers. So that included nurse practitioners and physician assistants. And I think that being compassionate was always something appreciated, because it was something that enabled them to come to me when they had any challenges, or come to me when they had anything that they wanted to discuss. So I knew that I was being successful when I realized that my staff could come to me when they had a challenge and just let me know about what was going on. If you don't hear anything, that's when you know that you're in trouble.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a good one. If they're not talking back to you and telling you things,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want staff members that are just going to be like, because that in reality, no, like you said, being that, and I love your leadership style. Like, by the way, I could see that 100% in you just through our interactions. You being very collaborative and compassionate, and that's important. Yeah, if you don't have your team talking back to you, you're not going to hear, and you're not going to be able to collaborate and hear those different perspectives. And I love that point about like, no, like, actually, I don't see it that way. This is how I see it. This is what I think. This is how I think we should do it. So not necessarily like, no, you can't do that, but like, no, this is what I meant. This is how I see things. And you get a new perspective. And I think that's something I'm working on, because instead of like working just in this new clinic that I'm in, I'm working with transplant patients right now. And it's totally different from what I used to do. I was like a floor nurse. I worked in critical care. And so now I'm like in this outpatient setting. So learning how to deal with different perspectives and different people are like, I'm just mind blown. So I'm really taking the extra effort to pause. When somebody responds to me, I try not to assume what they're saying. I'll just ask like, okay, wait, one more time. What did you mean? Instead of like trying to assume what they said. And 9 times out of 10, they didn't mean what I thought they meant and they had a different perspective. So I think that collaborative approach is like so true. Like it's okay to hear no, I disagree. I don't think that this is what I meant. That's how we grow. I love that.
Right. And I think that, I think that we have been groomed to be afraid of hearing different opinions, but that's really how we learn, and that they're all opportunities to be better, as an individual, as an organization. And I think people often use leadership as a way to have a team of people who will just say yes to their every desire and want. But that is not leadership. That is a dictatorship, and not what it means to collaborate and to improve. And so we really need to celebrate the diversity of the people in our team and the diversity of different thoughts and ideas. And having a leader that is really open to that is something really special. But it's tough because, historically our culture too hasn't been so open to that. I think that we have a very strong hierarchical structure in the culture of medicine, which is slowly becoming more and more collaborative. But there's still some barriers in that respect, which makes it difficult for people to sometimes say no, or hang on, let's take a pause, and maybe this isn't the right medicine, or maybe this isn't the right XYZ. So I think it's one of the most challenging problems that we have right now in healthcare is changing our culture.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. No, but I'm happy that you're also doing those changes and you're breaking those barriers and coming in with a collaborative and compassionate approach. Like that must be tough, going against the grain. It may not be what everybody agrees with or may, see the bigger picture behind it, that it's really, truly helping the organization. So that kind of would lead into my next question and our last question as we wrap up. I don't want to keep you too long. But what is one trait or skill a nurse right now could work on while preparing to grow in their career? So that somebody that may be listening right now, they're like, I want to be in leadership one day. Charlene has me really like, okay, this is possible. I want to be that type of leader, because I'm thinking the same here. I want to be that type of leader. What is one trait or skill we should be maybe cultivating right now in the time that we're in?
Yeah, that's really tough. There's so many great, skills.
Name a few if you like. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 100% being able to be adaptable and flexible and resourceful have been are traits that can help you in any role in nursing, whether you're a clinician providing direct patient care or a leader. Being flexible is extremely important because, there's always going to be change. So having that adaptability and that growth mindset is a huge, a great trait to have. So just being able to take every opportunity as a learning opportunity and being open to that. And then I would also just say, another trait I would say is consistency. So I think something that's helped me both in leadership and in entrepreneurship is being consistent, in terms of being able to have consistency on your values, where you stand, but then also being consistent in trying new things and in many ways, consistency can apply, but it's been extremely helpful just in developing my own skills and then continuing to just grow in different ways. So I hope
those are all good. Yeah, no, those are all good. Like being flexible, being able to be flexible, but not, giving too much, having a healthy balance. I think that's good. We don't want to be too rigid. Yes, boundaries are important, but we also want to be flexible for changes that are going to happen in healthcare, right? Definitely growth mindset. I 100% agree on that. And yeah, we have to be consistent. And yeah, in our growth, like investing in ourselves and whatever we want to do. Exactly. So keep watering those seeds and you'll see them grow. Keep putting them in the sunlight. You'll see them blossom. So I definitely believe that. And I agree. Somebody left a comment that I think is really pretty interesting, and I'll let you respond to the earlier statement. Co-creating between people is a needed health culture that is needed, as many nurses are burning out because they are not heard. How do you feel about that one?
Yes, co-creating is such a big need, and as we have been able to see with nurses during the pandemic, and I mean just in general, nurses have amazing ideas. They are some of the smartest, most creative people that I've ever met, and I think we leave so many untapped ideas and amazing solutions because we don't bring certain people to the table, or because we don't listen to the different thoughts and comments of the different people in our team. So I absolutely agree. I think that co-creation is such an important piece of being in any team. And if your leaders are not open to that environment where other people can, provide their thoughts and provide their feedback and ideas, then you're really missing out on some incredible things that could be done for your organization. Because, just back to when I was a new graduate nurse, I had all these great ideas and, new ideas. And I had leaders that were fortunate to listen to it, and it impacted, it definitely benefited our patient outcomes and our staff outcomes. So I think just acknowledging that everyone can have a great idea, and we should leverage that. So definitely, when you're looking for the different teams to be part of, that's a great question to ask. Like, how do you leverage the different ideas from people in your team? Like, how do we utilize everyone's thoughts and opinions, or how can we make sure that everyone is heard? And that's probably the biggest thing I've heard over my years in leadership, is that people have always been appreciative when they felt that they were heard. So it's huge. We don't do that enough.
Oh, I love that. Okay, y'all. So if you're out here looking for a job, you're thinking about where to go, maybe you're a fresh new graduate, wherever you're at, like that's something that we should be asking. How do you create environments? What is the environment for, having everyone's voice get heard in the organization? Where do y'all make space for that? Is there space for that? How do y'all welcome that? Like, I love that question. That is so good. And
Hmm? I don't think anyone has asked me that in an interview. So it's a great question to ask leaders.
Definitely. No, it's so true. And we should be working towards that, like you said. And if your organization isn't, like, they're missing out, because us nurses, like the way we show up for our patients and how we're prioritizing delegation and critical thinking, like we've all had a great idea or two, maybe a bunch, So don't be afraid wherever you're at in your journey, whether you're a new nurse, your perspective matters. And I think that's something that I had to work on, because I really feel like I'm a young nurse. I don't know a lot. I shouldn't have opinions, but that is completely false. That is not true. Your opinions, your ideas, your perspectives matter, and we should be sharing it with each other. And if you don't have that team, like, who are the team members that you can trust? Who are those safe people that you can trust to talk to and, talk about innovation? And I think a good place to do that, look, a little plug for SONCL. That's where we met. The Society of Nurse Innovators, Entrepreneurs, and Leaders. That's what we do. Like, we talk about innovation. We talk about all those amazing things. So I'll put those details if y'all are interested in joining the society. I think they're opening back up soon. Charlene, any last words as we close out? Let me just ask, what are your non-negotiable self-care routines as a leader? That's what I want your last words to be.
Yeah, I really love this question. During the pandemic, my whole mental state was kind of flipped upside down, just because of all of the challenges and all of the traumas from the pandemic. And so now I definitely have some non-negotiables for my self-care routine. Primarily, I enjoy meditation every day. Even if it's like 10 seconds, I will still, that's still something that I make sure that I do, or at least something where I could get into that headspace to have me just kind of sit and, allow my brain to kind of rest. And then another non-negotiable, and meditation has also helped me so much, just in terms of my anxiety, my stress, my depression, things like that. So I believe so much in the power of meditation. And then another non-negotiable that's part of my self-care routine is to give myself permission to feel. So, especially during the pandemic, I was, oh my gosh, early pandemic, early 2020, Charlene was constantly shaming herself and guilt tripping herself and making herself feel really, really bad because of all these things. And so I think now just being accepting of myself and accepting that I can't be everything to everyone, and that's okay. I can be myself. I can show up for myself, and I could give myself permission to be angry, happy, sad, disappointed, frustrated, all of those things, and that's okay. Because before I would always say, oh, I should be more productive, or I should have been happier here. I should have done this or that. No more of that. Now it's more just like, it was okay that I was sad here. It was okay that I was XYZ. And that's changed my mindset completely, and has allowed myself to be a lot kinder to myself. So long story short, that's another non-negotiable, is to give myself permission to feel.
I love that. So I've been asking, my guests this question, and to our surprise, self-care has not shown up as a bubble bath or a nail shop run yet. And I am loving it. This permission is like that self-acceptance. Like, it's okay. I messed up here. I did this, or I didn't say the right thing, or maybe, just accepting where you're at. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, that's something that I've been working on as well. So to hear you say that, I'm like, wow, okay. It's something that people struggle with. I'm not alone. I'm not overthinking things. I'm not alone in this, because that was definitely something that I struggle with. Like, oh, you're doing too much, you're not doing enough, getting stuck between that. And that's not a healthy place to be. And so I love that you advocate and you are like non-negotiable about, I'm going to feel the feels and it's okay. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think for the longest time, we've always kind of pushed our emotions aside, but we really need to be in tune with our emotions and who we are and what makes us feel certain ways. Being able to name our emotions when they come up is extremely important, especially for our communication with colleagues, with family. So can't stress that enough, just the importance of that awareness. And so, yeah, and number one, just being aware of yourself, how you're feeling, and then being okay with that.
Yeah, that self-awareness is powerful as a leader. That's another skill and trait that we should be working on. Because when you're more self-aware about yourself and what you got going on, you're kind of like, okay, you're kind of get more aware about others. Like, oh, y'all may be dealing with a lot today. That's why. Oh, does that make sense? Like, you get more aware of others as well. Like,
oh, yeah, absolutely. When you're more in tune with your emotions, I think that you might have a better perspective of other people's emotions, or at least just more awareness that they might be, not quite themselves, or maybe something has happened. You might just be more in tune with that too. So there's a lot of good that can come when everyone is in tune with their emotions, because then they can say, like, I might not be in the right headspace today. So if I'm acting differently, this is why. So we need a lot more of that in healthcare.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, everything's 100% all the time. I'm always good. Like, especially with leaders. Oh my goodness. Everyone's like, I'm always 100%.
Like, come on, y'all. You missed breakfast. I know you're upset. Stop. You didn't get your coffee today. I know that feeling. Like, it's okay. No, I love that. Again, thank you so much, Charlene, for hopping on and sharing your gems with us. It's been amazing just to hear your journey, how you're still growing, how you're still working. And y'all, if you haven't checked out her Fifth Window app, I'd let you go ahead and share that with us, like how we can get connected with you and all the new projects that you're working on. I'd love for you to just share with us real quick.
Yeah, so you could find me on LinkedIn, Charlene Platon. You could also find me on Instagram at Charlene Platon. And for Fifth Window, you could visit our website at www.fifthwindow.com. So it's FIFTH window.com. And that webpage has the links to download our app, either on the iPhone or Android devices. And you could also find our social media links there. So really invite you to check it out if you're interested in well-being tools and resources made by nurses and for nurses. But I really appreciate this time and space, Fallon. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It really is. Oh, y'all. Thank you so much, Charlene. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, y'all. When I tell you, like, just talking with her, she's so inspiring. I hope you were able to catch all of that. Go back, watch this on the replay. Charlene was definitely sharing with us more about her leadership journey, more about how to be a better leader. Where are you in your journey? I'd love to hear. Drop a comment below. Are you interested in leadership? What are some things that are holding you back? We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, connect with Charlene. If you need, more motivation, more tools, more just inspiration, and check out her wellness app. It's an amazing resource for us nurses, for us busybodies, because we're giving so much to everyone else, we definitely need to take care of ourselves. So y'all, it's been an amazing one again, and I will see you next time. Make sure you like, share, comment, respond, and I will see you next time. Bye.